only time when the Jews were finally able to be organized in the world that they lived in, where people who wrote could write. And every king in that age, every temple had a temple and a city, and they had their holy books that justified that God made them the king, that their city's the best, and their temple is the holiest. And the Jews wanted to do the same, and they wrote their stories. However, the first book in this text, it's organized differently. It's called Genesis. Genesis was not written until the Jews were in captivity in Babylon. So let's just get a little historical perspective. You got the early Jewish nation state. And the big empires they're dealing with are the Egyptians down there, the Assyrians. Eventually, the Assyrians come down and destroy the northern kingdom. Yeah. And then, for another 115 years later, the Babylonians come over and destroy Jerusalem and take them into captivity. In captivity, very important books are written. And one of them is the book of Genesis. And you're going to say, well, why did the Jews write a book about the creation and their beginnings in Babylon? Well, the reason was, once you lose your temple and they take over your country and they take the remnant of you and bring you into captivity, you know what happens to most human beings and organizations when that happens? They simply disappear. They no longer count in the world of empires and gods anymore. They're just assimilated. The Jews do not assimilate well. And they created their own creation story. Now you all know the creation story, the garden, Adam and Eve, and the biggest thing to know about the Jewish creation story is what they don't have in the creation story. There is no king or temple or chosen nation in the creation story. You got the creation story, then you got Abraham. Where's Abraham coming? From the city to get into the wilderness, to get away from the city. And you got Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. I love the Joseph story. And that's the creation story. No king, no nation to bow to. It's a whole different thing. And then the other thing, the other book that was written in captivity, very important, was the book of Ezekiel. Now Ezekiel, he was a priest of the temple, and writing as a prophet was his second career because he was in captivity in Babylon. And he's the one that introduced to the Jewish writers the whole issue, the whole literary device is called apocryphal eschatological writings. Now, that's what I'm talking about, the crazy writings, you know, the imaginations and the scene of angels and battles and lions and whatever going on, the completely out of world stuff. He wrote this book called the Ezekiel, about him going into heaven, the Son of Man taking him over. I mean, using this outrageous kind of a thing. And people go, oh, that's kind of like funny, and what's that all about? But I want you to know that we are immersed in the apocryphal culture. How do I know that? All right, you do. Oh, how many movies do you know out there that you go to and it's all about someone getting off the planet and discovering other planets? Or how many movies about people who go back in time or forward in time? Wait a minute, how about all the superheroes right now that are out there? You know, yeah, the kids have them. They're all of that is apocryphal stuff. All of that is bigger than human literature to tell us something about what it means to be human. And we're immersed in apocryphal literature in our culture. And with those who say, why did they believe that back then? That's kind of foolish. I'm going, hey, You know, this country is ripe for that sort of stuff. Am I making any sense on that one? That's a jump, but it's, this country is awash in apocryphal stuff. And I believe literature at its most basic level is trying to explain what it means to be human. I got issues at home, I have to pay attention. This is not one of them. Gosh, I don't know why I did that. Sorry. All right. Yeah. Yeah. And the way to read these texts is to, whatever book you're looking at, find its location historically, and then ask, what empire are they dealing with? Because the book never is written without empire being a problem, without wealth being a problem, without war being a problem. And the Old Testament God and the Jewish people believe that they can do both. That you could follow God, and we can do this empire thing, nation building, winning wars at the same time. And by the time Jesus is born, and he's a Jew, and the Romans yet again are coming and destroying the temple. That was extraordinary. The destruction of the temple is so central to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But no one seems to realize that's the historical background in which the text is written. And frankly, I don't know where the Jesus movement came up with this idea that the problem with humanity and their understanding of the relationship with God and each other is that we buy the old-time religion, in which means you've got to have a king, you got to have a temple, you got to have a priesthood and a city and your nation to function.
So what do we decide? Does he know the Bible? Hey, so if we're at a pause, remember you guys had an impromptu speech the Monday. Should we give him an impromptu speech?
Are we going over our note cards or not?
Oh, whenever you guys do the note cards whenever you want. I gave them all note cards to ask questions. You guys can share those with him whenever you want.
Oh yeah, if you guys have questions, give me a question you have, not the ones I'm trying to answer.
Wanna go around the horn?
Sure. I had, if there was any regret you had, and what would be your biggest regret in life? Like any opportunity or anything.
I'll share mine. It's really easy.
Oh, let's hear your regret.
So I was in Rome. So this long, and I was staying in a hostel, and there was a help wanted sign in the hostel. And I think you would have gotten a stipend to live in Rome and stay in the hostel and be in Rome. I could have done that for 6 months. I said, no, I need to go back to graduate school. So now, who knows if I would have actually gotten that opportunity. I don't know I just never inquired about it. I wish I would have inquired. So.
Okay, so.
Go ahead.
I don't live with regret. I don't, because I believe in following the guy who's going to save the world and do the things that are going to last forever. And I just, all I know is I got a mark. I have to